What's up everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Dana White talks Makhachev versus Volkanovski 2. After 5 hard-fought rounds in Perth, many fans, analysts, and fighters were unsure of who deserved the title of pound-for-pound kingpin. Although Islam Makhachev emerged from the hard-fought fight with Alexander Volkanovski victorious, the fight was an incredibly close one that saw the featherweight champion have more than his fair share of moments throughout the course of the 25-minute affair. Following the fight, both men agreed to a rematch, with the featherweight kingpin even going so far as to say the rematch could take place in Abu Dhabi to give Makhachev an advantage given that he had just fought in hostile territory. Although many fans have continued to clamor for an immediate rematch, others have continued to point out that another fight would hold up both divisions. UFC President Dana White weighed in on the situation recently during the post-fight press conference on Saturday night, saying,
"When the entire world is arguing over who won, that's a super fight, and it delivers, right? The only thing that could possibly be better than that is the guy who's fighting for the interim title comes out looking incredible too. So now you got Yair versus Volkanovski, right? We'll see what happens with Islam and where he ends up fighting next."
Given that Makhachev will have to defend his belt once more before he faces off with Volkanovski again, many are wondering who the UFC will match him up with. Dustin Poirier threw his name in the hat recently after his third-round submission win over Michael Chandler last year. However, with former champion Charles Oliveira and streaking contender Beneil Dariush set to square off at UFC 288 on May 6th, the general consensus is that the winner of this fight is next up for a crack at the title. Do you think Volkanovski is able to continue his tear of the featherweight division when he faces off against dynamic striker and interim champion Yair Rodriguez? And will Islam Makhachev be able to defend his belt once more in order to lock down another super fight? Give us your predictions for how things will play out in the comments section below. UFC 285 broadcast team set. The upcoming UFC 285 pay-per-view this weekend officially has a desk crew. After much anticipation and controversy, UFC Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier will get the opportunity to call Jon Jones' highly anticipated return to the octagon. In addition, the event will serve as the 2023 debut of longtime commentator Joe Rogan, who will join the one and only Jon Anik behind the desk to complete the trio. Of course, some members of the fight community have been questioning whether or not Cormier should comment his longtime rival Jon Jones' fight, given the storied history between the two. Jones then went on record as saying that he had no problems with DC calling his fight. The former pound-for-pound kingpin even gave his rival props for his work behind the desk, going as far as to welcome a sit-down interview with Cormier. As Jones mentioned, Cormier has called his fights before. When he returned to the octagon to face Ovince Preux in 2016, it was DC behind the desk calling that fight. After winning the interim light heavyweight championship, Jones exited the octagon and famously gave Cormier the finger. Do you think this beef is really behind the two men? Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. Jon Jones' sparring partner claims former champ was afraid of Ngannou. Leading up to his UFC 285 fight with Ciryl Gane this weekend, Jon Jones changed his tune regarding Francis Ngannou. Although Jones had initially come out in support of Ngannou after the Predator parted ways with the UFC, he claimed recently that Ngannou didn't believe in himself enough to fight him. According to a member of the Sherdog Forum, one of Jon Jones' sparring partners, who traveled from Russia to Albuquerque to help Jones train during his hiatus from the octagon, claims the former pound-for-pound kingpin was afraid of Francis Ngannou. In an interview, he was reported as saying, "Jones was afraid of fighting Ngannou, but now that he knows he's fighting Gane, he sleeps calmly at night." Of course, Jones and Ngannou were supposed to face off when the Predator was able to return from reconstructive knee surgery. While he continues to rehabilitate the injury, he plans to make his boxing debut before competing in MMA once more. Do you believe Jones was afraid to fight Ngannou given the Predator's power? Or is this sparring partner of Jones trying to stir the pot? Give us your thoughts in the comment section below. Scott Coker gives update on Nate Diaz versus Francis Ngannou talks. Currently, two of the biggest stars in all of MMA are free agents. Both Nate Diaz and Francis Ngannou find themselves without contracts after parting ways with the UFC. In the case of both men, there has been no indication as to where their first post-UFC stop will be. Although Ngannou's boxing debut is up next, a promotion, opponent, and a date all have yet to be determined. This week, Bellator MMA president Scott Coker gave updates of the status of talks with both camps, starting with Team Diaz, saying,
Nate Diaz, whenever he's ready and he really wants to fight again, because I think we're just waiting to see what he wants to do. We'd love to be in that mix. So it's just going to be a matter of time, I think.
In the case of Ngannou, Coker revealed that Steven Espinoza recently spoke with the Predator.
We have all the biggest fights. They just announced the Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis fight. So the big fights happen on Showtime pay-per-view. So if they could offer him the boxing and then we could offer him MMA, I think would be a great home for Francis.
Do you think either man signs with Bellator? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Dana White reacts to rumors that Conor McGregor replaced fighters on The Ultimate Fighter. When Conor McGregor arrived on set in Las Vegas for the filming of The Ultimate Fighter Season 31, reports emerged that the Irish superstar had 3 fighters kicked off the show and replaced with his own team members. For his part, McGregor refuted the rumors, claiming that he didn't even know any of the replacement fighters prior to the start of the show, with the exception of one. Despite that, fighters like Gilbert Burns had blamed McGregor as the reason his own teammate was unfairly removed from the show. This week, Dana White was questioned about the reports by a media member. Initially, he claimed he had no idea, before then questioning who cares if McGregor did have fighters removed. White then launched into a long explanation about the situation, revealing anyone who missed out on an opportunity to be on a show would get another opportunity with the UFC.
You know what I mean? And you're trying to get guys to commit to coach and, to do the coaching commitment, especially when you live in Ireland. You know what I mean? Yeah, Conor's going to get some things that he wants. Nobody lost an opportunity here. If there were guys that were booked to do that, we'll do something with them. It's not just like, hey, see you later, pal. Good luck to you. Have a good life. We'll figure it out. We'll take care of these guys.
What do you make of White's comments? Give us your thoughts in the comment section below. And now for our breaking news story of the day.
There's also an accusation of someone using an IV. They said Islam rehydrated with an IV, but
in rounds?
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, it's illegal. You're not
During
allowed
the
to.
fight?
No.
Oh, before the fight.
After the weigh-ins.
I was gonna say,
because he cut so much. He cut so
do
much weight to make one. No, you're not allowed to use an IV.
What?
Yeah, it's illegal.
Once you're weighed
It's
in, you're
part of
done. That's
USADA
interesting.
because you could mask PEDs with an IV. So like if you take certain PEDs, you can flush your system out with an IV and then take a piss test and it won't show up.
Love it.
They say that they caught him. They say they know, but I haven't seen anything yet. So until then, I don't know.
Jake Paul reacts to Tommy Fury loss. After Jake Paul suffered the first loss of his career at the hands of Tommy Fury this past weekend, the controversial YouTuber claimed his training for the bout was riddled with obstacles. Immediately after the fight, during his in-ring interview, Paul called for the two to run things back. Although he seemed to be outclassed during the fight in the eyes of many, he believes a rematch would go differently.
Honestly, I felt flat. I got sick really bad twice in this camp, injured my arm, so it wasn't my best performance, but I lost. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying it wasn't my best performance. I felt a little flat, and like I said, we're gonna come back and get that W. Don't judge me by my wins, judge me by my losses. I'm gonna come back stronger.
It's important to note that the contract for the fight had a rematch clause that kicked in if Paul had lost. Had Fury lost the fight, there was no obligation for Paul to offer him a rematch. With the loss, however, Paul will now have the opportunity to opt in to a rematch. As many have pointed out, however, given how dominant Tommy Fury looked early on in the fight, a rematch could end up playing out similarly. How do you see a potential rematch between Jake Paul and Tommy Fury going? Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to see more videos just like this. See you next time.